Hello everybody, hello, good evening everybody. Terrible, cannot believe it. Good evening everybody. Welcome to FTMS, Asia's #1. We have one dream in our life, become a member of the ACCA. Nothing else matters in our life except ACCA. So today we're going to do a little bit of a talk about exam technique and some things you need to do to be able to pass, especially the P paper. But some of the things we're going to talk about, it can apply to all papers. It can apply to all papers. So we're typically going to talk about P3 and P1 as being examples of exam technique and why people fail. Because some people fail because they are lazy. Right? Some people fail because they are lazy. Some people fail because they are too clever. Right? So when you fail, you ask yourself the question, did you fail because you were lazy, or did you fail because you were too clever? So some people are very smart, but they're very rubbish at passing exams. So we're also going to take that into account. And it's important to get good exam technique to start. So we start off by talking about P3. And then P1. But the lesson is the same lesson and the same complaints. Anybody here at lower levels, you can always, the most important thing is read the examiner's reports. Every year the examiner does an examiner's report. And the examiner's report tells you why people fail the exam. So every paper in ACCA, they've got an examiner's report. And they identify the mistakes people have made. So this seminar is based on the examiner's report for P3 and P1 and what mistakes people make. Okay. So the first thing we need to look at is feedback from the examiner. There's no better person to tell you why you failed than the examiner. And P3 examiner, every year he writes a report and it tells you what mistakes people make. If you're doing P4, speak to Elliot, Elliot Betts. He is the marker. He is marking P4 examination. He is the marker of the P4 exam. He can tell you what it takes to pass P4 papers. So what we're going to start off is looking at P3 paper. The first thing to say is that in Singapore, for the professional P3 paper, P3 paper, 53, 54, 51, 52, 50, 46, 47, 48, so between 47 and 54, that is 90% of Singapore students fall in that category. So 90% of Singapore students, they fall between 47 and 54. Some people like disaster, they get like 30, 22. Some people get 80, 82, but they've got no friends because they're working all the time. They have no friends. So what happens is most people in Singapore, either 90% of people in Singapore either just pass or just fail by a few marks. They just pass by a few marks or just fail. So the margin is very small. And one of the most important reasons why people fail is time management. Especially in P3, because P3 there's a lot of things to read. You'll never read so much in your life. It's like reading Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. When you go into the exam, there's a lot to read. Every term I do timed question. I did one yesterday in P3 and last week in P1. In P1, 5% of people passed in my P1 class, in my test. And the reason why they failed is because I did the test in the time available in the examination. And people can do the homework, yeah, very easy, yeah, la 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 la. Check their Facebook, do a bit more homework, check their Facebook. But actually most of the time, in exam, you are under pressure, you are sweating. If you're not sweating, there's a problem for you in the exam, if you're not sweating. So, There's 180 minutes in the exam, 180 minutes, and there's 100 marks. There's 180 minutes and there's 100 marks. So every mark is 1.8 minutes. Every mark is 1.8 minutes. So 10 mark question, can be a 10 mark question, 18 minutes. 20 mark question, 36 minutes. Right? You must follow this time strictly for P3. And this was a big reason why a lot of people failed the last P3 exam. In P3 exam there's a Q1 case study and there is 3 25 mark questions. 3 25 mark question, one easy, one difficult, one impossible. But most people they fail because they spent too long on Q1. They spent too long on Q1, especially on Q1 Part A. And that is what the examiner said. Many people spent too much time on question 1 Part A, just an answer which is far too long for the marks available. So once you've got all the marks, you cannot get any more marks. So if the question is 10 marks, 18 minutes, you must say 10 things to get the marks. 10 points, 10 examples, 10 ideas. So to get 10 marks, you must say 10 things. And last exam, the first question was 24 marks. Some people spent 2 hours just on 24 marks, and they failed the paper because they did not complete. I just met a girl today, one of my best students. She failed P3. I could not believe it. I said, why you failed P3? She said, I only did 2 questions. I could not believe it. She's so clever, but she failed P3. Only did 2 questions out of 3. How to survive if you only did 2 questions? So your time management is very important. You must be very strict with yourself. Candidates who spend too long on Q1, they have less time to complete the answer. So they miss out the easy marks. When you're picking apples off a tree, do not pick the ones at the top, pick the ones at the bottom first. Get the easy marks first. And on the section B question, there's easy marks to get. So people, they've tried to get from 18 to 20 when they could have gone from 0 to 10 very easily. So the idea is time management. 100 marks. The examiner said he's looking for 12 sides. 12 sides is not 12 pages. 1 page is 2 sides. So for 10 mark question in the exam, he's looking for about 1 side and a fifth. 1 side and 7 lines. So roughly how much you need to write? 10 marks, just over a page is what he's expecting for 10 marks. The whole exam, around 12 sides for the entire exam. That is what he said he's looking for. You are required to answer precisely and focused. The size of writing does vary, but most exam scripts are 12 to 15. So around 1.2 to 1.5 pages for 10 marks in the examination. What contributed to failure is time wasted. So people, they waste time on doing things that does not get any marks in the exam. Especially at the professional level, you must apply the theory, not describe the theory. So your exam comes from application. 5 forces, you don't have to explain every single one of the 5 forces. You apply the 5 forces. You show your understanding by your application, not by your description of the 5 forces. You show your understanding by application of the 5 forces. Okay. So very important at the professional level. At the lower level, it's more descriptive. But at the higher level, it's more application. You have to apply. And people waste time copying out big chunks of their notes they've memorized, and they are not applying their notes. That is why they fail. What they're writing is getting 0 marks in the exam. What they're writing is getting 0 marks. The bad mistake is to copy out big chunks of the case study. Some people, they copy out big chunks of the case study. How can you get any marks by copying out words that you've already been given? This is crazy scenario. You cannot get any marks by copying out words you've already been given. You must analyze the case study. What does it mean? What does it tell you? Explain what it means is what we have to do. So people wasted time by copying chunks out of the case, explaining models. What we need to do is to apply the models. Models must be applied, not described. That's it. If there's one message you can take away from tonight, the professional paper, models must be applied, not described. You apply by linking it to the story and creating examples. That is how you apply. You link it to the story, you create the examples. Match your points made to the number of marks available. If it's 5 points, 5 points means how many pages? 5 marks, how many pages? Half a page, right? 5 marks, you're looking at half a page. Do not write 2 pages on 5 marks because you're not going to get any value from doing so. Question 1, part A, most people did okay on the first part, but they spent too long on the question. The question was 24 marks in the exam. It was 24 marks in the examination. So you'd be looking for about 45 minutes. Some people spent an hour and a half on it, and that's why they failed. You must be very strict. What I used to do when I did my exam, I used to write the timing next to the marks. 10 mark, 18, 20 mark, 36. Okay. I used to write the timing on the page so I know to stop. It's better to stop and move on. Stop and move on in your answer. You might get Student Accountant. It's a magazine. You should definitely read it, especially for P3, because the examiner, he doesn't write many articles, the examiner, but he likes to ask questions on things that have been articles in the P3 Student Accountant. Now you get it by email. Is it now not a magazine anymore, right? It's by email, right? So you might just not have looked at it, but I would advise you to go back. If you're doing P3, P1, or F7, or F9, go back and look at what are the recent articles. The examiner wrote the June exam in March, 15 months ago. Okay, so the June exam was written in March 2012. So anything recently is not going to be asked. It's beyond that, before March 2012. They're the important articles we look for. There's an article about benchmarking in there, and that came up as a 10-mark question in the examination. So do not neglect your articles, right? You might sort of like, when you get the student accountant delivered to you, your first thought is delete it, delete the email, put it in spam. But I think you should definitely keep it and go onto the ACCA website, look at your paper, and it says these are the relevant articles. Quite often articles lead to question, especially in P1, the P1 students. Okay. Question 2, everybody's favourite, PESTEL. PESTEL, PESTEL. PESTEL stands for Political, Economic, Social, Technology, and Environmental. Like, yeah, I can do that. I remember that in the exam. PESTEL, they did PESTEL. The problem is, just because it's PESGEL, not everything is relevant. And only 2 or 3 of the 6 were relevant in the answer. The people, they'd learnt PESTEL, so they go, legal is all about legal issue and legislation in the market, and legislation could be a very important area, and legislation can include employment legislation, but there's nothing on the case on this issue. So why have you wasted 5 minutes writing about something that is not relevant? So for PESTEL, for 5 forces, for value chain, for any of the models, you only pick out the ones which are relevant in this scenario. You only pick out the ones. The big mistake people always make with PESTEL is technology. Technology is always external technology trends. It is not internal company website. Oh yes, the company's website is very poor. It's not very good at all. Their website is rubbish. This is a major problem in the company. 0 marks. Half a page of rubbish, 0 marks, because it's not external, it's internal. They were writing about internal technology. Pestel is always external. So many people wasted a page writing about technology, and they failed because that page scores 0. Don't think you have to apply in P3 every single step of the model. You don't have to apply every one. If in your exam, 5 forces, Porter's 5 forces, super hot for June 13. But you might not have to apply every one of the 5 forces. You might have to apply every one of the 5 forces. So don't, if it's not relevant, exclude it. Or just do a quick line, this is not relevant in this case. A few lines, a few words. In the exam, for now, for P3, there is always a 10-mark question on numbers. And this always scares everybody. Although its level is F level. So it can be NPV, IRR, payback, contribution per limiting factor, regression, correlation, all the things you've done in F, 9, 8, 7, or 4. Right? So all the things you've done already, you're going to do again. Expect, definitely, a 10-mark mathematical question in your exam. And when you see it, don't panic. Last exam, he said, evaluate the claim that they could fund their organic expansion at the cost of $500,000 through internally generated source. This was cash flow question. So there should be cash, and it gave you numbers. What did people do? Totally ignore all the numbers. Oh, I'll give you numbers, but I won't mention them. I won't look at what mention them at all. Evaluate the claim it could fund the growth out of 500,000. His profit was 120,000. But there was some like, could he collect the cash in faster? Could he delay payments to make the 500,000 required? You have to do some numbers. Expect numbers in your exam. Bring your calculator. iPhone is not allowed as a calculator in the P3 examination. Expect numbers in your exam. 10 marks of your exam will be a technique from F9. NPV, IRR, payback, moving averages, regression, correlation, relevant costing. It's all now in this paper. You need to do some basic cash flow analysis in the last exam. People, when P3 students see these numbers, they become physically sick and they start to panic. Sweat runs from their body when they see numbers. So the answer was too general, no calculation at all. So if he gives you numbers, you've got to use the numbers in your answer. That's the clue. If he's put the numbers in, you need to somehow calculate something, at least give it a try. Too many candidates turn the question to a general question, advantages and disadvantages. Too many answers focus on external financing, which was specifically excluded. He's talking about internal. So again, a lot of people, they saw numbers, they start palpitation in their heart. You've got to try to attempt to do the numbers. If it's cash flow, contribution, you must do it and comment. Calculate and comment is what P3 is about. Calculate the number, but must comment on every number you calculate. If you calculate a ratio, you must comment on the ratio. Don't attempt a question if you have no idea how to do it. So in the exam last time, they had a big decision tree question. Some people did that question and they got no idea how to do decision tree. Pick something else. If you've got no idea how to do the maths, do the other question. Do not do the impossible question. There's always one easy, one difficult, one impossible question. Do the easy. Don't do the impossible. Do the difficult. It spells D-I-E, difficult, impossible, easy. If you do difficult, impossible, you will die, D-I-E, in the examination. So you must make sure you at least can do the majority of the question before selecting it. If you can't do hardly any of it, don't do it, do something else. A lot of people attempted the decision tree question and they didn't even know how to do a basic decision tree. So why did you choose it? Are you crazy? So main reasons for failure, P3, lack of preparation. P3 is tough. It requires a lot of effort. You cannot just walk in off the street and just do 1 hour revision. It requires a lot of time to prepare, especially for that case study application question. The exam is 2 months today with P1, and 2 months, 1 month and 29 days, you're in P3 exam, 1 month and 29 days. You must dedicate yourself now. No more partying at Zouk, nightclub, do not go there anymore. No more disco dancing, no more karaoke. Do not go karaoke singing. Hit the books is what you have to do now. We are now in April. April and May are the time you will say to your friends, I'm not coming out. I'll see you in June. Tell your friends I'm not coming out. Make the sacrifice. 2 months hard work and you will be past the exam. If you work hard for 2 months on P3, you can pass your P3 examination. Don't fail because you are lazy. You've got a choice. Go out and fail, stay in and pass. You've got to make a decision. Professional paper is the toughest paper you will ever sit in your life. Degree, MBA is easy compared to P3. Poor time management, 1 mark, 1.8 minutes. 10 marks, 18. 20 marks, 50 marks. See, the mathematics of this class not good at all. Right? The mathematics not good at all. 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours. For P3, don't describe the model, apply the model. In the exam, for question 1, you have to learn 18 models. You will pick 4 in the exam that you have to apply. You will pick 4 in the exam. You must apply 4 but learn 18. When you apply them, don't describe them. Every 5 minutes in the exam, mention the story. Give an example every 5 minutes in your P3 exam. Give an example linked to the story. The reason why people fail P3 is often not enough application examples. People fail P3 because not enough examples. So the reason why people fail, they're good at knowledge, they can memorize everything, but they have no application skills. Application skills is homework, revision course. It's all about application. How to use the model, how to apply the model. Anybody can learn the model. The skill of P3 is application of the model. That is how to pass P3. You must learn how to apply, not how to memorize, how to apply. Phrase is very important for P3. A lot of people, they make a basic mistake of not answering the phrase, not using the phrase in the exam. Phrase is the word, verb. What are they asking for in the examination? So what happens is, because they don't follow the verb and phrase, they incorporate irrelevant information. Like on that funding question, it said internal funding. Because they didn't read it properly, they talk about external funding. So for your exam, if you put irrelevant information, you can write a lot and score 0. Your answer, some student is like, they're like a machine gun. They fire a lot of target, fire a lot of bullet, hope to hit with some bullets. But for P3, For professional papers, you must be a sniper. One hit into the head, die. You must be precise in what you write, and everything you write and answer the question and nothing else. Don't add anything that is outside the scope of answering the question. You just focus on answering the question and look for every question that's got a key word or key phrase. You answer your question based on the key word or key phrase. For P3, evaluate the strategy. Okay, evaluate, I know what that means. That's going to be Johnson's faults. Itty, itty, itty. Identify strategic options. Okay, now I know which way to go. There's always a key word. Strategic position. You must know what it means. Industry environment. You must know what it means. Macro environment. You must know what it means. Macro environment means pest out. But some people, they write about 5 forces. Because they learn 5 forces in their revision phase. They write 2 pages on 5 forces and they score nothing. And they fail. You must be precise. Know his favourite topics, his key words, his key phrases. So environment is going to be super hard for your examination. Right? It's going to be super hard. You must know the difference between industry, marketplace, macro environment, and when to use the diamond. If he asks you to use the diamond, when to use it. P3 is hard. P3 is pain. You must suffer to pass. So a lot of people, they are lazy. They are not working hard enough. That is why they fail. You should be putting in yourself, right now, 15 hours a week outside the classroom. Every weekend, 15 hours. Either weekend or evenings when you're not lecturing. That should be your target each week. 15 hours. 5 hours Saturday, 5 hours Sunday, and then a few hours in a week to make 15 hours a week. That's where you should be to pass your professional paper. That does not include lectures. Lectures do not count. 15 hours a week for the next 8 weeks is where you should be for P3. That is your target. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail in your life. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail in your life. Time management in P3 must be perfect. It must be absolutely perfect if you want to pass. If your time management is bad, every year good students fail P3. Every year good students fail P3 because of poor time management. We see that in P3 class with that time question. If you're average student but fast, you pass. If you're average student with good time management skill, you pass. If you're genius but with weak time management, you fail. That's why I said sometimes people fail because they are too intelligent. They are too intelligent. They've got too much to write. They cannot make the timing. So do not be a genius. You have to be average and hit the timing perfectly. Learn the core models. Test out 5 forces, value chain, BCG, parenting, evaluation, business process change, project management. These are the core areas. IT, upstream, downstream, e-marketing. Learn the core areas. Learn the core topic areas. That is the key to success. The core topic areas come again and again. For question 1, part A, every exam, there's been 20-mark question on strategic analysis. Every time. Every time. Every exam for the last 10 exams, there's always been a strategic analysis question. Every time. Learn the core topics. Learn them well. Students who fail, they are always weak in application. You must practice and practice the application skills until you know exactly how to do that. You must link your answer back to the story and create examples linked to the story. Every well-explained example will give you 1 mark. Every well-explained example. So remember that girl, she got 49 in P1, 49 in P2, and 49 in P3. Why? No examples in her answer. Not enough examples. So, luckily I am here to help you, ladies and gentlemen. Luckily I'm here to help. You have 24-hour support via my website. Please click like. Marty Windle lecturer. Please click like. 24 hours. Have you clicked like already? Cannot believe that. If you cannot find it, just type in ACCApass.com. It will direct you. ACCA Pass. Remember those words. ACCApass.com. It will take you straight to my Facebook page. Click like. There is article on there for P1 student to read. There is video. Every P3 student, P1 student, can sit my mock exam. I have written a mock exam which will be exactly the same as the real exam. It is available for every revision course student, every student who signs up for revision. People say, Marty, can I have it free? No, we're a commercial organisation, not a charity. We are a commercial organisation. So once you sign up for the revision course, for any course, you can approach the front desk and book in your mock examination. I will mark it every year. I mark the mock exam myself, even though I have no social life because I spend all my time marking the mock exam. My skin gets whiter and whiter. I look like Michael Jackson because I never see the sunshine. The Facebook page will contain a last-minute video. The day before the exam, I put up the last-minute briefing video that is free of charge. We've got 2 revision courses for P3. We've got normal revision and extended revision. What's the difference between normal revision? Extended revision includes normal revision, but plus 3 more extra session on exam technique and question practice. So extended revision is an extra 3 lecture, an extra 10.5 hours, just to make sure you are totally focused. We spend those extra 10.5 hours on the tipped areas. So revision course is everything we cover. Extended is more. We do more, we do extra, especially focused on the tipped areas. There's a slight extra dollar or so, I don't know how much it is, a few more dollars to pay. But maybe if you are nervous about P3, $100 compared to 6 months of failure, make your decision. Anybody got any questions about P3 exam? Any question about P3? If the example is not, thank you for your question. If the example is not linked to the case, will you get a mark? What do you think? So if you put in a totally irrelevant example, why should I give you a mark? Example must always come from the story. That is what it's looking for. It's looking for you to apply to the story. Apply your model, apply your analysis to the story. If your example is not relevant to the story, it shouldn't be an example in your case. Anybody got any more questions? Okay, so I'm going to go through P1. P1. Anybody doing P1 this time? Any P1? Just do P1. Okay. Sit tight. How to pass P1? P1 is a slog, different to P3. P1, you must, P1, 34% of P1 is knowledge. Knowledge, no intelligence required, just memory required. 34% of the marks in P1 is knowledge. What is the role of a risk manager? What is a strategic risk? There's certain core knowledge. What is the role of the chairman? What is the role of the CEO? What is the role of the remuneration committee? These are the sort of questions he asks you, and they account for 34 marks. So this is a fantastic thing, because you don't have to have any intelligence. You just have to have memory of the core lists, roles, all the roles, role of remuneration committee, role of nomination committee, role of risk manager must be memorized for P1. So the first step in P1 is knowledge, memory, which I call on my course, we call that medicine. We call it take your medicine. Learn your core knowledge. Core knowledge is strong. It will not give you a total pass, but it will give you 34 marks. It will give you a lot of easy marks on knowledge in the P1 exam. In P1, everybody always has the same problems, and in P1 the problem is not answering the phrase. Many students, they lack core knowledge. I make all my students complete medicine. They must do Marty's medicine, which is learning the core knowledge for P1. People hate me. They say, Marty, I don't want to do medicine. I don't want to do it. But actually, when they pass, they write on my Facebook page, Marty, thank you for making me do the medicine. The medicine made the difference in my exam. Thank you for forcing me. I hated you at the time, but now I love you. Okay. Thank you for making me do the medicine. So, one of my questions on medicine, what is meant by diversification of risk? And that came up in the last exam. What is meant by diversification of risk? That was the question in the last exam. It was done poorly. A minority of students was able to describe diversification well. So people that don't know the basic core material of what is diversification of risk. I think most people should know that. Not learning core knowledge. The requirement was then to explain why diversification of risks was difficult. So first part, knowledge, what is diversification? Second part, application, why is it difficult? Many students, they try to fit in the knowledge they've learned rather than answering the question. So most people, they learn TARA. TARA, every student in P1, they always learn TARA. Transfer, avoid, reduce, accept. Everybody learns that. So they thought, I've learned that, so I'm going to get it into my answer some way, somehow. Even if it is totally irrelevant to the answer, I will impress my examiner by showing my knowledge of TARA. So for this question, why is diversification difficult? People put, oh yes, transfer, avoid, reduce, accept. And the examiner goes, why are you telling me this? This is not in any way relevant to the question that I've asked. But people, they feel if they've learned something, they must put it into their answer. They are machine gun standard. They are not sniper. You have to say reasons why diversification is difficult. Why is it a problem to diversify? What are the potential problems you're going to face in diversification? Weak answers try to fit TARA into the answer, although it was inappropriate and incorrect. You've got to just answer the phrase. Try to think. In P1, if you're not sure, use your imagination, use your common sense. Answer. It will give you a few marks. If you feel you can do it, it will give you marks in P1. Don't be afraid to use it. Once again, P1, you need to apply your knowledge for P1. Knowledge application is important. What was unethical and unprofessional behavior of Hannah? She was a qualified accountant, therefore subject to the IFAC principles of ethics. So it said This is Hannah's behaviour. Why was it unprofessional and unethical? So there's actually 5 ethical things an accountant should have. Professional competence, professional behaviour, objectivity, confidentiality, integrity. 5 things. And if you do my course, we have a smiley face to learn the 5 things. But only in this case, she was only guilty of 3. She was only guilty of 3 of the 5. She was only guilty of 3. So if she's only guilty of 3, don't try to fit in the other 2, even though they are totally irrelevant to your answer. You only use what is relevant. Don't include things that don't fit. Your answer must fit the scenario. You don't include things that don't fit. Sometimes not all parts of the model are relevant. You only bring in the parts which are relevant. So don't include things that don't fit your answer. Sometimes only 2 or 3 points out of 5. If they ask you about threats to independence, maybe only 3 are relevant. Don't put in the other 2 because you know them. Only put in the ones that are relevant. Some students tried to show how Hannah had breached all of them. She didn't breach all of them. Only 3. And this one. No, she didn't. She didn't do that. She didn't do that. She only breached 3 of them. So, see, I'm getting too excited. So she only breached 3 of them. So in the exam, be like a sniper. Be like a sniper. Do not be like machine gun. Standard. Thank you. Tissue donation is always welcome. Thank you. So be like a sniper. So I can't just push this on. I have to cut the video now for this. So this is a common mistake, right? Less is more sometimes in your exam. The less you write, the better it is in terms of if you write less, if it's correct, you can move on and have more time to spend on the areas which you are going to need more time to spend on P1. So this is a common problem in P1. Okay? So be careful. You need to be able to apply your knowledge. It's important not only to know terms like strategic risk, but to be able to apply them in the case. The case said, what is strategic risk? And then it said, why is strategic risk relevant in this case? You have to apply it. So P1, learn the basic knowledge, practice the apply. Every year in P1 exam there is 4 professional marks. A lot of people who fail P1, everybody who fails actually, I spoke to the ACCA, one of the guys from ACCA, everybody who fails P1, they usually get 0 professional marks. They get 0 professional marks. Professional mark is for the format, for the style of your answer, and for the structure. So most students who fail, they get 0 professional marks. Some people fail by 2 marks and get 0 professional marks. 4 marks is available. Make sure you have introduction, body, conclusion, structure. If it's a speech, I would like to say. The board, I would like to say on behalf of the board. Report, letter. These are always, again, professional marks. What killed everybody in the last exam was it was write a newspaper article. People, newspaper article, unexpected. But we still follow the same principle. Introduction, body, conclusion. Look at your professional marks. Don't give away these 4 marks. They could be the difference between success and failure in your ACCA exam. Corporate governance, question 2A. Why is sound governance can make it difficult to fail? Classic question, right? The first thing we learn in P1 on day 1 are the principles of corporate governance. The first thing we learn, we call them the hair-drift principle. Hair-drift principles. That's the way to remember the 9 principles of corporate governance. Hair-drift, honesty, integrity, accountability. All those 9 principles. Hair-drift. Okay. So we learn on day 1, but what they ask you in the exam is, how sound corporate governance makes it difficult to fail. What they wanted you to do was to apply it in the case. So if we have transparency, one of our hair-drift principles, why does transparency make it more difficult to fail? Why does integrity make it more difficult to fail? So why does honesty make it more difficult to fail? Why does independence make companies difficult to fail? But what the weak student did, they just copied out their hair-drift principle and did not apply. So they wrote the principles but did not say why it makes it difficult to fail. They did not follow the phrase. So it's not, they did knowledge with zero application to the phrase, and that is why they failed their P1 exam. You cannot just list knowledge, you need to apply your knowledge. Weak questions listed the concepts. It wasn't clear how this approach was attempting to answer the requirement of making it difficult for companies to fail. They just listed the concept, they did not apply and say why it's difficult to fail because. They did not do the because part. Good answers reflected features and importantly considered how each one made the company more robust and less likely to fail. So good answers would say independence principle, independent directors, they are the eyes and the ears of the shareholders, they can monitor the board, scold the CEO, question the CEO, therefore because they are monitoring the board it makes it more difficult to fail. So not just the weak student, independence is important in corporate governance, full stop, fail. Strong student, independence of non-executive directors can help to monitor the board to make sure the strategy is not too risky and to question and challenge the CEO, therefore this makes it more difficult for the company to fail. See the difference? One is knowledge, one is application of knowledge. So for P1, you need the knowledge, but you need to get those other 64 marks are available for application of knowledge in P1. Accountability, you had to apply it in the case. So most people, accountability is one of our hair-drift principles. Accountability and responsibility are one of our hair-drift principles. But again, the ability to apply knowledge, knowing what accountability means to a case, is gaining good marks. So knowledge is your foundation, application is a success. Question 3 was the easy question. Every P1 exam, one easy, one difficult, one impossible. Question 3 was the easy. Reasons why internal control may be ineffective. This is like your core knowledge, right? Your core knowledge for P1. You said make sure you've got a list of your core things like roles, reasons why companies fail. You must have that in your mind, core lists of knowledge, and you can get some easy marks, but it won't give you a total pass. Again, same question. The question 3 said, why is it important to recognise all stakeholders? Question 3 said, why is it important to recognise all stakeholders? Now, this is a classic question where people, they go in the wrong direction. Why is it, whenever you see that phrase in P1, why is it important? Your answer automatically in your head is, it is important because. It is important because. It is important because. Because what people did, they saw the word stakeholder. That's stakeholder, I know stakeholder, I learned something on stakeholder. I'll draw the box, the power, interest box, I'll do the box. Conflict could be a problem. So they just go into automatic, copy out your notes on stakeholder, do the machine gun. Hopefully one thing I write is relevant in the exam. But the students who pass, they say, it's important to identify all stakeholders because we can understand their claims, we can understand risks, we can identify conflicts, we can identify compromise. It's because you need to be tuned in. We do a lot of this on the revision course. I cycle you. If you see this phrase, this is how you start your answer. Why is it important? When you see that phrase, cycle your answer, it's important because then you'll never go wrong. You'll never go off track. If you start your answer, it's important because your mind will not let you write the wrong answer. Your answer will fit to that phrase. And revision course, we try to cycle you. But what people do, they saw the word stakeholder straight into Mendel's framework. They do the Mendel framework, do all the boxes, colour in all the boxes. And it wasn't really relevant to the answer. Only partially, a little bit. Half a mark relevant. But people lost mark because they go into autopilot, knowledge dump. They dump their knowledge on the page. The word stakeholder triggered an assumption the answer would involve Mendel. It was not so, except to highlight that some stakeholders are more influential than others. The question specifically asked about the importance in recognizing all stakeholders. Risk, disruption, conflict should have been the focus of your answer. So one phrase, one verb can change the emphasis of your P1 answer. Part C, newsletter. He always writes articles, this examiner. You must have read all his articles, especially the recent articles from this examiner. You must have read the recent articles from this examiner. His article always lead to question. So same thing as P3 and for any ACCA subject, look at articles, especially so if the article is written by the examiner. So for P1, 4 parts: governance, control, risk, paper, 150 mark case study, 1 easy, 1 difficult, 1 impossible question. To pass P1, you need core knowledge, application, and exam technique. Core knowledge, application, and exam technique. Core knowledge, we call it medicine. Application, we learn a lot on the course and on the revision course. Especially, we make sure you get your application skill sharpened. We sharpen your application skill, and especially we sharpen your exam technique skills. For P1, we focus on passing exams. We give out homework on the exam, revision no homework, but on the actual course, every week you get homework. That's why every week everybody always hands me homework. That's why I'm so tired. The focus on P1 is 100% pass. But we've got to have a lot of question practice. That's why we need revision. We need to spend time on P1 understanding the word and the phrase, and focus on what the examiner said and advice given at the Teachers' Conference in London. So don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, click like on my Facebook page. I set and mark all exams. There's a P1 exam free, but you must sign up for a course at FTMS. It is exactly the same as the real exam. If you do my course, you'll increase the chance of passing by, it will add 10 marks to your score. It will add 10 marks. So if you've got 40, come to my revision course, you'll walk out with 50. There's only one course, it's only IRC. There's no extended because they didn't put me. So sign up today and invest your money, and return will come in a short payback period. These are the discounts, ladies and gentlemen. 5% for Facebook page of FTMS, 5% for FTMS, 10%, 15%, 100%. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Hope I've given you some food for thought in your P1 to P3.